Good morning. Talking call centers today. Read a great article yesterday in Strategy Plus Business, which is the Boost Company newsletter on myths about millennials, which actually is incredibly relevant when talking about call and contact centers, because that makes up a huge portion of the workforce. Centers have been struggling with how to find, keep, and retain millennials. There's a lot of myths and stereotypes out there regarding millennials. They aren't loyal. They have no patience to move up in the organization, etc. I've seen call centers that have changed their policies within their office regarding cell phones to allow them to keep checking their Facebook while working in between, hopefully between calls and not on calls, giving away iPads as incentives, and it's really been a significant issue and concern for a lot of centers out there. But the article by Jennifer Deal, five millennial myths, was quite interesting, because she really takes on some of these myths head on, and doesn't just do it from an opinion perspective, but actually based on research. And what the research found that Jennifer's quoting was first the belief that millennials don't want to be told what to do, that they don't take direction well, and as a result they're very difficult to manage. Well, unfortunately for that myth, the research tends to argue quite the opposite. When compared to baby boomers and Gen Xers, millennials are actually show more deference to authority, and are, in theory, at that point, easier to manage. When asked the question to agree, or the percentage who agreed or strongly agreed with the statement that employees should do what their manager tells them to do, even when they can't see a reason for it, 41% of the millennials identified with that, versus only 30% of the baby boomers or Gen X staff. I guess that comes from the fact that growing up, the millennials, no different than most of us, knew that if they did what their parents told them, it would probably end fairly well for them. Managers certainly can improve their own capabilities, as well as that of their millennials, if they bear this in mind, really trying to ensure that the millennials, wherever possible, have that transparency to understand the reasons behind things. I think there's a greater curiosity found with millennials, perhaps, than with previous generations, even if they are, based on this research, more obedient. The second myth was millennials lack organizational loyalty. They're going to jump and move for pennies or for dollars, and they really don't commit to an organization. Well, I think part of the reality, and what was borne out through some of the research cited in this article, was that whenever anyone's in their 20s, they tend to be less stable. The baby boomers moved more in their 20s than they did in their 30s from job to job, and moved more in their 30s than they did in their 40s. So I think part of it is just is generational, but it impacts on every generation. In any organization, the people at lower levels just tend to be younger. So I really don't think, there was no difference when we compared, when we look at the different generations at their relative points in their career. Also, and that's certainly relevant to call centers. Millennials are a problem to get and retain, but then the Gen Xers were at their time, and the baby boomers were at their time as they came through the call and contact center environments also. Millennials aren't interested in work. We've heard that. There's a lack of commitment to any organization, and it's demonstrated through the lack of interest in their jobs. Research actually would contradict this, as it shows that millennials are intrinsically motivated or into their work as every bit as much as the boomers were or the Gen Xers were. Again, people who are lower in any organization tend to be slightly less motivated than those who are more senior. It isn't that millennials aren't motivated; it's that they're not motivated to do boring work. boomers weren't motivated to do boring work when they were at the same age. So we have to realize that call and contact centers can be very repetitive and can, frankly, be boring work. And we have an obligation to our employees to try and make it as interesting and engaging and create for them opportunities to move up within the organization. And this really underscores the importance, as I referred to earlier, of transparency. Wherever possible, you want to be as transparent with your employees and your workforce as you possibly can. Unless there's a reason for not sharing, share. The more informed, the more likely they are to engage, and the more engaged, obviously, we know the better the result will be from a customer perspective and a transactional satisfaction perspective. The fourth myth was that millennials are motivated by perks and high pay. There's no relationship really between a person's generation and whether or not they're motivated by perks and pay. Of course, everyone likes pay and everyone likes perks. If somebody was handing out iPads, I'd be right there in line as well. But giving them an iPad, giving them an on-the-spot bonus, letting them bring their dog to work, letting them use their smartphone to check their Facebook account during the day, it's not going to make them more loyal. It's not going to, it's going to be a perk. They'll take it, but it's really not going to have any impact on the retention levels. Far more impact is going to be generated through what the corporate culture is, what the level of engagement is, what the level of transparency is within the organization. The last myth was that millennials want more work-life balance, and I guess that's probably something which all of us strive for. And they are more interested in work-life balance than the previous generations, but it's not at a significant level. But we got to remember that when the boomers grew up, we weren't talking about work-life balance. We're talking about work. So, so people think that millennials are more focused on this. The reality is that they're no more focused than the Gen Xers are. And the boomers are focused on it simply because they're heading towards the end of their working career and are looking for more time for themselves. So I think there are a number of lessons that call and contact centers can take away from the dispelling of these myths. One, millennials react in almost all of these situations similarly to the generations that have gone before them. They really aren't all that different. Certainly, they are more cognizant, I think, of organizational culture. They're more cognizant of how that impacts on their personal work-life balance. They don't see careers for life, as boomers might have at a similar age. They expect to change jobs, and consequently, they're always looking for a better opportunity. And giving them, gifts, spot bonuses, perks aren't going to change their satisfaction level with a job that they define as boring or leading nowhere. What will impact on them positively, frankly, is going to be a high level of transparency, a culture which they feel respects them and their contribution and treats their customers or the people that they interact with fairly and reasonably. Embracing this as you look at your management policies and workforce policies related to your call center agents is going to go a long way to ensuring that you can create a loyal, dedicated, effective workforce. And the fact that most of them will be millennials is just based on where we are in this expansive time. So thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions or comments on this video, please feel free to share them with me. You can email me at ctaylor@thetaylorreachgroup.com or give me a call, 416-979-8692, extension 200. Always love to chat about call and contact centers, about the industry, and about anything else which you might find to be of interest related to these topics. Thank you again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.